And we're asking the question, what if our earliest societies were actually built around women? We're taught that patriarchy, a society run by men, is just the default setting, the natural order. But what if that whole story is wrong? What if one of the world's very first large-scale settlements wasn't ruled by a king, but was built around women? For 9,000 years, the secrets of this place were buried deep beneath the Turkish plains. But stunning new DNA evidence pulled from skeletons found under the very floors of its houses tells a revolutionary story. A story that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about our ancient past. Today, we're digging into the archaeology that challenges our most basic assumptions. This points directly to a matrilocal society, where life and residency are centered around the woman's family line. Flourishing over 9,000 years ago, it's one of the most ancient and best preserved Neolithic sites ever found. At its peak, thousands of people lived here in a tightly packed maze of mud brick houses. It's wild. There were no streets. People used ladders to climb into their homes from the rooftops. But the truly revolutionary thing about Çatalhöyük isn't just the architecture, it's the people. For decades, archaeologists have been scratching their heads over this place. There are no palaces, no grand temples, no government buildings you'd expect in a settlement this massive. This led to a theory that Çatalhöyük might have been a remarkably equal society. The first hints came from the art. The original excavator, James Mellart, found hundreds of figurines, and the vast majority were female. But how they chose their leaders remained a total mystery. The science seems to finally confirm what some have suspected all along. Çatalhöyük was a profoundly female-centered society. For over 1,000 years, this sprawling proto-city didn't organize itself around fathers and sons, but around a core of mothers and daughters. As long-time lead archaeologist Ian Hodder has suggested, it appears that men and women at Çatalhöyük had remarkably equal social standing. This isn't just a cool historical fact. It's a direct blow to the idea that male-dominated systems are the automatic outcome of farming and settled life. Çatalhöyük shows us there was another way. So, was Çatalhöyük just a fluke? A one-off experiment in a world that was otherwise marching toward patriarchy? The evidence suggests, not a chance. When we zoom out, we find tantalizing clues from all over the globe that female-centered societies were a lot more common than we've been told. This discovery suggests the Romans might have been telling it like it was. Mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, is passed down only from mother to child. Finding an identical sequence across generations is the genetic signature of a matrilineal dynasty. For over 300 years, high status in Chaco Canyon was passed down through the female line. The DNA even confirmed direct relationships, like a mother and her daughter, and a grandmother and her grandson, all buried in that same elite room. This doesn't mean women held all the political power, but it proves that your status was determined by who your mother was. This was a monumental discovery, because it was the first ever genetic proof of a hereditary matrilineal system in a complex prehistoric North American society. And the pattern keeps going. Let's head back across the Atlantic to Iron Age Britain, right before the Romans showed up. In a burial site in Dorset, belonging to a Celtic tribe called the Durotrigus, researchers made what one geneticist called a jaw-dropping discovery. DNA analysis of 57 skeletons showed the community was built around closely related women. Now let's get back to what this all really means. DNA analysis of 60 individuals showed the cemeteries were organized strictly by maternal clans. Almost everyone in the North Cemetery shared one maternal ancestor, while almost everyone in the South shared a different one. Meanwhile, the paternal DNA was all over the place, showing men came from many different lineages. For a period of about 250 years, that's roughly 10 generations, this community buried their dead according to their mother's clan. This find was a shock because it challenged long-held ideas that patrilineal organization was the norm in Neolithic East Asia. From Turkey to New Mexico, from Britain to China, the genetic evidence is building a powerful case. These discoveries are forcing us to ask some huge questions about the stories we tell about ourselves. If this journey into our hidden past is blowing your mind as much as it is mine, take a second to like this video and subscribe. It tells the algorithm these are stories worth sharing, and it really does help support the channel. They were the thread holding the social fabric together for centuries. The terms matriarchy, matrilineal, and matrilocality get thrown around a lot, but they mean very different things. Let's break it down. A matriarchy is a society where women hold the primary political power and social control. Basically, a mirror image of a patriarchy. And honestly, pure matriarchies in that political sense are practically non-existent in the historical or archaeological record. Matrilineal, on the other hand, just means your identity and descent are traced through your mother. Your clan, your heritage, your social standing, it all comes from your mum's side. And matrilocality is when a man moves to live with or near his wife's family. What the DNA evidence from Çatalhöyük, Chaco Canyon, and Iron Age Britain unambiguously shows are powerful systems of matrilineal and matrilocality. These were profoundly female-centered societies, where women were the anchors of the household, the lineage, and the community. This is a massive departure from the old story. The myth is that farming and cities automatically led to patriarchy and male hierarchies. But this evidence reveals a different reality. For thousands of years, all over the world, people built complex, successful societies that were organized around female kinship. They weren't necessarily matriarchies where women ruled men, but they were societies that placed immense value on women's roles and kept them surrounded by their family and support networks. This makes you look at the work of controversial archaeologists like Maria Gimbutas in a new light. Back in the 70s and 80s, she argued that Neolithic Old Europe was peaceful, equal, and goddess-worshipping before being conquered by patriarchal invaders. While many scholars dismissed her work as wishful thinking, this new genetic data, in a way, vindicates the core of her argument, that pre-patriarchal societies with prominent female roles were very, very real. The evidence reveals that patriarchy wasn't inevitable. It wasn't our default setting. The archaeological and genetic record shows that human societies have been far more creative, diverse, and flexible than we ever gave them credit for. Thanks for watching. The ruins of Çatalhöyük and the bones buried in Chaco Canyon tell us that the past is a stunning tapestry of different ways of being human. For millennia, our ancestors experimented with countless ways to live together. Some were patrilineal, some were egalitarian, and as we now know for certain, many were centered around women. Uncovering these forgotten stories isn't just about setting the historical record straight. It's about expanding our own imagination for what is possible. It reminds us that the way we live now isn't the only way we've ever lived, and it doesn't have to be the only way we ever can. The story of humanity is so much richer and more interesting than we ever knew. By digging into the past, we unearth new possibilities for the future.